Podcast episode number 34. Pew, pew, pew. We just came back from watching Dune 2, so...
It wasn't that good, was it?
It was pretty good.
It was better than the first one, I will say.
Yeah, so. It was good storytelling.
Good pacing. It's very, like, the cinema experience is pretty awesome.
I think that's one thing you got to watch in the cinema, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That's it.
Exactly.
Although I don't think the cinema would have saved Dune 1, though, so...
I agree.
So, like...
Oscar Isaac could not carry it that far. I miss you later.
Happy belated anti...
What?
Auntie?
Well, where did I get the auntie from?
Wow.
Happy International Women's Day. Expect us to say it properly. Yes. We're repping over there from a shirt from 2006.
Shirt perspective.
We go way back.
Alrighty.
The force is strong with this one.
Exactly. Yeehaw. We can do it. Alrighty. So this week actually had a lot of stuff pumping through the news cycle. Let's kick it off. With what happened with Meta and announcing about stopping the pay for Australian news content.
I can't believe I still said anti. Anyway, so yeah.
This household is not happy.
You know what? Anyway, whatever. All right, let's start. So
don't dig a much more of a hole.
Yeah, let's start. So look, this happened a couple of days ago, and it's also pertaining to the US as well as Australia. So this is an interesting one. Obviously, we're Australian based, but whatever we talk about is going to be relevant to the US as well. So Meta is announcing that they will be removing
wow.
the
Your words. Your words are gone today.
Removing the Facebook News tab in their app in April, and in doing so, will not be paying any money or associated revenues to the news organizations that were previously, like having content there, right? So what this means is that around $70 million per annum is in stake in terms of the Australian advertising economy, and it could mean loss of jobs and disruption to the news industry as a whole. So just a little bit of context about this specifically. In 2021, the Australian government had introduced like a news bargaining basically law, right? And it required tech giants like Meta and Google to negotiate fair compensation for Australian publishers for their content appearing on their platforms.
Yep.
So the government kind of initiated this. And lo and behold, we're in 2024. Meta initially agreed to the code and signed deals. So these deals were directly negotiated between the social media companies, Meta, Google, and the Australian media companies, right? So that's important. But this is off the back of the Australian government enacting this law, right? However, in March 2024, Meta announced that it would not renew these deals as they expire in April. They're going to remove that tab, basically refusing to pay the content. And then they also plan to remove the Facebook News tab in April in 2024. This is going to happen in the US as well as Australia, and a lot of Australian media companies are up in arms because this is not small money. This is $70 million, right? Like this is, and that's just one number that's thrown around. Another thing is like there are a lot of, depending on where you get your news sources from, it's in the hundreds of millions.
Yeah, they're saying, I'm reading a news.com.au article where it's saying it's expected to cost publishers, Nine, News Corp, ABC, as much as 200 million.
So depending on like where you're reading from, but like what are our initial thoughts about just Meta doing what Meta does? I think my first question before I get your reaction is, do you even look at that news tab in Facebook?
Truth be told, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, okay. So the answer is no. So there are two things. This is not to be construed with the fact that people can post, like, for example, a Sydney Morning Herald link on their thing, right?
Yeah.
So that is going to happen regardless, right? So Facebook, Google as sharing platform, content sharing platforms, that's never going to stop happening.
Yeah.
But there's a specific tab in Meta that says news.
So going through the user experience on the app version, right? So it's they've hidden it way down at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's after your memories, your saved, your marketplace, your groups. So that already indicates that, there was already an agenda to not, I guess, surface it up that way.
Or have it as readily accessible.
Yeah. Other than, if you do follow any of these, the news publishers, the their
their Facebook page.
yeah, their Facebook pages. The feed will come up through
which is
that way.
independent of that, by the way.
Or
Yeah.
or if a associated friend liked or engaged with a piece of content. Truth be told, have never seen this in my life.
I agree. So I agree. Kat, have you ever used Meta to look at news?
No.
Like in that format, at least.
Like
No.
purposely, I think that's there's the intent to
Actually seek it
to
out.
To use it as basically a conduit, like a newspaper.
consume
right?
to consume it that way.
So same, and we're both like Gen Z, Gen Y over here. And I had to scroll a little bit myself in terms of looking at it. The engagement is not a lot. Like it's not in the hundreds of thousands. Like they're pretty small, right? And I think it's quite interesting because in 2021, when the Australian government, felt really strongly about it to enact like a law to have that happen, what happened and the major news outlets that kind of negotiated were the Nines of the world, the big sort of conglomerates, right? Would that happen? So it would no doubt be a level of fixed fee as opposed to a performance sort of model, I would think, or maybe a combination of. And I think what's interesting here is Facebook, their agenda in terms of their product is they're saying that they're getting out of the news industry because it's just a lot of expense for very little reward, i.e. they're paying a fixed amount, whatever that fixed amount is. We don't know the specifics of it. And users are not coming to Facebook for news articles. So why are we paying for it? I mean, that's...
And all the more got to keep it within the environment as opposed to
exactly
people jumping off from the platform. Right?
However, like the type of money that we're speaking of, and by the way, this is just for Meta. There's nothing to stop maybe Google from doing exactly the same thing, which would be catastrophic because Google is bigger than Meta and arguably a much more integrated way to search for news. If you think about it, Google News, right?
It's readily there. Use it all the time.
So I think this is like, actually, if you're an Australian media organization, this is causing shockwaves for you, right? And so the different sorts of levels of organizations that are actually being affected. One is your big, again, I'll just keep referencing Nine, Murdoch Media, whatever you want to call it, the big guys. But the interesting thing is when you kind of search and...
No, that's actually... Nine is with Fairfax.
Sorry, yeah, like the big conglomerates, right? The news outlets. But interestingly enough, the smaller organizations and there are little like institutions within that. It's been like commentated, for example, that like it's really going to affect regional news outlets.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking like, okay, why would it affect regional news outlets? It's because the money that they're getting from these institutions are actually funding those journalists, right?
Yeah.
But the city media institutions have different sort of commercial models completely that are running self-sustainably, right? Which when we went down that rabbit hole and kind of researched that, there's a couple of different thoughts that kind of get into my mind. One is it sucks that like big tech, Meta and Google actually have this level of control and power. Like it kind of really does suck because you're really at the whim of them chucking like a hissy fit and saying no.
In a midst of, I guess, news being challenged as general, like, like trying to substantiate it, people thinking that it should be free to begin with, when in actuality, the quality of it and the journalism, like, is probably the one thing that is keeping us safe.
So we'll
from
talk,
all
we'll definitely talk
right?
about it. The other element, which I think is interesting, is these companies have gotten so powerful that they are the major distribution sources for everything.
Yeah.
Everything right now. But that that the major media companies, and this is not an Australian thing, by the way, this is going to hit like America, and it happened to Canada as well, right?
Like even China as an example, right? In using social media to kind of do everything, when you really take it to that degree of integration within life, where you're actually paying like stuff through, what's it called? Alipay, yeah, like
WeChat, all that stuff.
Yeah,
but yeah, so the Albanese government is now in a predicament where they created that law on that, and they're going to meet up with Meta to try and force them to come back into it, because this has caused a big uproar in the Australian
apparently
media
they're at risk of like a fine of like 1.5 billion.
So check this out, right? So look, it is what it is, right? But people are saying that there is we need to just watch out, because the kickback that could happen if Meta just goes full nuclear and says, no, we're not going to pay it. Like, it's our product. And that's the thing. It is their product, right? You're coming to them, right? So it's a philosophical debate as much as it's a commercial sort of debate, right?
But then it's also, I guess, it goes back to this whole point of like regulating so that it's fair for all, right?
Well, here there's the kickback, right? So the Canadian government did the same thing because this happened to Canada. And what happened is
AKA Canadian.
Canadian.
There are different versions of this. So they're going to remove the news tab. They're not going to stop news articles from being like
Surfaced up.
linked.
Yeah,
Not necessarily surfaced up, but linked. Or maybe they'll keep, for example, Channel 9's news page. However, what they did, because the Canadian government did something very similar in that they created a law and went head to head with Google, is Google went full, I don't know how to, they went full power play, and they completely banned news articles from being serviced in anywhere, Facebook Canada at all.
Yeah, that's
so
crazy.
you couldn't do it. And this happened in the midst of a forest fire where people were sharing up, because that's how people disseminate information, right? If like our parents...
What are you going to do? You're just going to mark yourself as safe? Like,
Well, but what I mean is they have that much control. So media pundits are saying that just remember that you can go one to one of them. And if they've already said that they're not going to pay, and it's their product, it's the onus, there is a precedent that they've set with another developed country that they can fully say,
Yeah.
you know what, in addition to that, because you're just kicking up a fuss of trying to push your agenda on our assets, so the money that we don't want to pay. Well, not only are we going to remove the payment is the bit that we're talking about, but we're going to remove any level of media being like distributed by Facebook at any certain level, not just via this little tab, which we've agreed doesn't seem like it has the biggest one, right?
Yeah.
So I think this, to me, philosophically goes down the rabbit hole of how much we value media, and journalism is the branch there, and really important journalism, because there is no doubt that in a democratic country, it has an extremely important role to play, right?
challenging the government, challenging
All that
kind
sort of
all,
stuff,
all
right?
things, right? Where it's providing a different provocative opinion so that
Well, the media, if it's done right, is meant to be an independent voice
Yep.
to have to challenge, right?
Yep.
But here's where, to me, this intersection of capitalism and news really collides, right? The reason this is not working is because the commercial model of media is broken, and it's not
Yep.
an Australian thing. It's
Everywhere.
fundamentally
Yeah.
broken. It's been broken for a long time.
Yeah.
So, like, this is a wrong way of phrasing it, but I can't think of another way. But in accepting these payments from Facebook and Meta, these institutions have not forward thought about a way of generating revenue for their
It's
for
an
their thing.
over-reliance.
It's an over-reliance to allow them to remain, let's say, quote unquote, independent or not. And that's why two things. Sorry, you were going to say something?
No, it's just, I guess, adding to the point where because of the digital age and how it advanced, the tech companies clearly have the advantage, right? Whereas
The distribution platforms, right?
seeing at the turn of the decade where, you know, newspapers was everything, magazines, and then bit by bit, paywall started coming up and everyone's just like, well, why do I need to do that? Like, I've constantly got random articles where, you know, unfortunately, we're all subject to the social media guys where it's a salacious headline.
Well, that's the stuff
And
that
you try
clicks.
to
That's
and
the
you
stuff
try
that
to click
views.
it, and then it's like, oh, you can access it for $1. And I'm like, oh,
And
it's
you'd
not,
never pay it.
It's not that. It's not worth that much.
But hold up.
or you can try and find it another way, right?
See, this
Through
is
another channel.
inherently the issue, right? We complain that that's rubbish journalism, tabloid journalism, but that's that over an actual proper story gets clicks and gets viewed and gets monetized. And it's the same thing that we have with our YouTube channel, in the sense that we know that if we go after, like, just say, pet projects of really concrete stories,
Yeah.
like, I'm intrigued to see, by the way, prove me wrong, guys, if this particular topic is going to rank more than maybe the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson thing, right? Because we know what people look at, right?
Yeah.
When it's a constructive conversation or something that's maybe has a bit more meat, people tune out,
and of
right?
actual significance, right? But then if it doesn't really trigger a so what or a entertainment value,
Yeah.
then it's not really there's no value assigned
Regardless
to it.
of and because Facebook is in the business of keeping people in their platform, and ironically, if there's been stats apparently that there's been an 80% drop in consumption of media via the app, which is the justification of why should they pay it if that's the case.
Yeah.
If it had gone up like 120% or something like that, they'd keep it. They would. They're not silly, right?
Yeah.
Anything to keep you within the Facebook ecosystem
Yeah.
is how these companies run. So that's inherently the challenge. And the challenge is, remember when Sydney Morning Herald started having paywalls and stuff like that? I wouldn't touch it. I don't care about it anymore, right? And when the thing is, when we tune into Channel 6 News, news at 6 o'clock, news at 6 o'clock.
Completely different channel under the radar. Did not know of it.
Channel
Wow.
6. But if we tune into news, we are so
Dancing
conditioned.
with the Survivors coming up next at 7 o'clock.
We're so conditioned to getting it for free that we place no inherent value on it. That is the challenge, right?
Yeah.
If we don't place value on it and we're not willing to pay for it, then the behaviors of these companies, which we're already seeing now, have to change to get the eyeballs, to get the clicks, and it goes down to smart media, which is like 10 listicles, all that sort of stuff there, right?
It's pretty dire all the way around because the attention economy that
Is getting smaller?
is getting smaller and
Yeah.
smaller. Well, I think the thing that kind of bucks the trend in all of this, right, is if you're looking at different media, what is Facebook having to compete with to a degree? TikTok, right? Where the generations are now shifting to that, and arguably even X to a degree. I shivered at the thought of saying X, Twitter to a degree.
It's X.
Is still kind of when we're thinking of
Still the
more
town hall.
about,
It's still where
about
people do
news
it, yeah.
and whatnot. Like
Yeah.
people actually consume that there. I mean, seeing in lights of like Israel Palestine, how that's actually coming through genuine news, but actually from the source of people, not through any specific media that may have a certain agenda or anything. That's that the proliferation, if you will.
Yeah.
That's just I know we've gone off tangent, but it's just a
No,
different side,
it's
right?
in tangent because you say, I actually forgot what the point that I wanted to zone in. It's traditional media in terms of those
Yes.
mainstream
Yeah.
big channels that the CNBC. People are being very anti-trusting of these now,
Yeah.
right? So where people are consuming media is personalities now. YouTube, whether you like it or not, Tucker Carlson, all these guys, Ben Shapiro, right? They have like followings in the millions, right? And it's not, check this out. These guys have insane Patreons. So here's the thing. You talk about biases and stuff like that. People, your content creation, your YouTube channel or like your Twitter or X channel is curated in terms of what you want to search for, right? So we facilitate the echo chamber of the news that we want to
Mirrors.
hear. We do, right? So
Yep.
we want to hear what we want to hear. We want to
Yep.
hear the ideologies, if you're left or right, or if you're centrist or whatever.
Which is completely against the idea of having a balanced kind of understanding.
But that's how people are doing it, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, people are paying for it, and this is the break.
Yes.
They're paying for it.
Yeah.
These patrons are huge, right?
Which is the exact same thing as subscribers, right? If in traditional media sense,
Correct.
right? Where I remember my parents would have they would actually have, back in the day when you actually get the newspaper delivered to your doorstep,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
a full on subscription, right?
So can I say
Where-
that why do we feel that like people are boycotting mainstream media and going to new school media, which is maybe YouTube, which is X and all that? And if you're paying for it, you're only paying for it because you derive value in it, right? Like that's the only reason you'd pay for things.
There must be something in the way that the news, the media is being presented, and there has to be some level of generational alignment with it, right? Because, for example, I consume a lot of the daily news through the Daily Oz on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that's
Because
very
it's
very
very-
young in terms of like the methodology, the graphics,
Yeah.
how you want to consume it, right?
And it's quick. It's not
It's not
it's
slabs
native
of text.
Yeah, it's native within an environment that I'm usually in. You get it in bite-sized
And
chunks.
it's just enough that you need to know versus anything more than that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Daily Oz.
Shout out to Daily Oz.
And obviously you guys are watching, get a lot of your news through like down the rabbit hole, which
Shout out to us.
hopefully we can keep that thing. But yeah, I think it's fascinating because like it's a microcosm of yes, the big tech throwing their weight, and in one hand, it's really terrible that like proper journalists are going to lose jobs and stuff off the back of it.
Where there's been so many throughout, like in the last couple of years, where as businesses are trying to cut costs, a lot of the within the divisions of journalism is ceasing to exist. And I guess, you know, as always, is it ever a down the rabbit hole podcast if we don't mention the threat of AI and whatnot?
Yeah, but you know why that's the case? The case is like these legacy models are broken. They're
Yes.
fundamentally actually broken. The cost structures are bloated, really bloated. Like if, I don't know, like there's 3 cameras here, there's lights and stuff like that. If I were to equate, I don't know, the cost of how much it would cost, including electricity and everything for every episode, I don't know what it would be, right? Let's call it a couple of hundred or something like that over 3 years or something. Like every episode we make costs us $150 or whatever of our time and all that to do it. I don't know the number. To do the exact same thing at their level is so much more, and the payoff is not necessarily cutting it, right?
The actual investment of, you know, pursuing something, the resources needed for investigation, and
it's interesting
for potentially not much return.
Yeah.
Anyway,
which isn't the actual point of the virtue of doing journalism, but that's
journalism as a whole has also like veered into different it's kind of like evolved. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how strong the Albanese government are going to try and go here. I'd be fascinated to see what their approach is to try and negotiate with Zuckerberg. But like the sucky thing is it's their asset. So to me, it's like, how can you, if they're saying that they want to close that product feature, I don't know what legal basis you can close it, especially if they've done that to like Canada. So I'm confused. What's the legal basis of, is you're like saying, hey, keep that feature. But then if I'm Facebook, I'm like, dude, it's my product. How can you tell me to keep that feature? And if I'm going to remove it, I'm not going to pay for it. So what do you want me to do? Like, I don't know what legal basis you can do it. And they're based in the US as well. You don't have the jurisdiction argument. This gets really scary if like Google and all the major tech companies are reducing their cost base, right? They're there's emphasis on operational efficiency. If Sundar looks at that and says, you know what? I'm with them too. Let's reduce the cost base or do it there. Because to me, Google has Google News, right?
I reckon they've diversified enough. To
but what I mean is I know for a fact that people look at Google News. Like it makes much more sense, right?
The first thing, this is a classic, journey, right? I see on Twitter, oh, is this actually real? Let's Google to see what the sources are, right?
For sure. Like Google News is like a real thing. Like a lot of people use it. And if I'm like Google, what's to stop you to say that even if you don't want to pay for it, because you hold the upper hand, I'll pay, but 50% less than what I'm paying now. Because like if I go, then what? And I don't know what basis you could fight about it. So it gets quite scary when you've created that much of a dependency on these major distribution platforms, and you don't have a distribution platform. It's yourself that people are willing to pay for.
We'll see how that develops. It's going to be pretty important decision. We'll see how it goes going forward. Alrighty, switching over to sports.
Sports.
Our favorite sports, but
truly following the model of news. News, important topics, sports.
This is an important topic, by the way.
Yeah. It's been a week of incidents.
Yeah. Yes. All right, let's go. So, okay, let's call it what it is. I've been just thinking about how to word this. So, you know, last week we talked about like the footy.
Simply the best.
We talked about it.
That section popped off.
Section popped off. So we see you. We see you, Australian
Thanks
rugby.
to everyone.
So actually, I'll link it up there as a suggested video. But we were talking about basically if Australian Rugby League blew their one shot to promote our great game to
the US
market.
To the
US, but. Again, we're depending on where I consume the news, it seems like some people say that they did good, and others said that like some of the television view numbers were like overstated. Anyway, whatever. Like I think overall it wasn't the worst thing, but they could have done better.
They did the thing.
So lo and behold, one of the games was the Brisbane Broncos, the mighty Broncos, versus the Sydney Roosters. And coming out from it, basically there was an exchange between Brisbane half Ezra Mam and Roosters prop Spencer Leniu, hopefully I'm saying the words right, where it was accused at the conclusion of the game that in a verbal exchange between the two players that Spencer Leniu called Ezra Mam a monkey. So Ezra Mam is of Aboriginal descent. And this was basically the big news following that, because Ezra Mam was apparently extremely upset. He was crying, apparently. Like a grown man. That's pretty intense, actually, right? So he's a proud Aboriginal. They have the Aboriginal rounds and stuff like that. The fun fact about Ezra Mam, before he actually made it to the Broncos, in one of the, they have the Indigenous All-Star Games.
Yep.
He was a dancer. He was actually like a dancer.
wow.
Fun fact about Ezra Mam, he's actually a robotics major as well. So the guy's just... Like,
Wow.
He's just
killing
all,
it.
he's just all rounded.
Fun fact about Ezra Mam, he's a multimillionaire now because he signed a really rich contract with Brisbane Broncos. But so everything's popping around this guy. But anyway,
Not sponsored, no affiliation with the club whatsoever.
I mean, Brisbane, if you do want to sponsor the
Here we go.
podcast.
Here we go.
Anyway, so interestingly enough, all right, so there were these claims, right? So at the conclusion of the game, because it's a pretty intense claim, this happened, they interviewed Spencer, right? And Spencer denied saying it. So he denied saying it at the conclusion of the game. A couple of days later, so Spencer basically pleaded guilty. So he came proactively forward, right? So the kickback between this, like in these couple of days between, was insane, right? So what I mean is, he denied it. Spencer denied it. The Broncos and that made a big deal about it, as they should. We stick by our boy, Ezra.
Official words being shared on all social media. And,
it was everywhere, right?
News,
Jonathan Thurston was saying, reporting, and he's of Aboriginal descent too, that
and he had his own experience
Ezra was
as well.
Crying.
Yeah.
I don't know, just when I heard Ezra was crying, it's just a weird optic to think of a guy actually cry like that, right? Like, yeah.
You could never really know how it feels until I think it happens to you.
Yeah.
That's probably the main thing, right? Where it's we've heard, this is not a new story. We've heard iterations of this throughout, like the last eons of years.
Adam Goods.
Right? Where there are sportsmen being subjected to such horrible words of hate to a degree, whether people say it or not. The fact that the intention is to put them down to a degree.
Yeah. This one's pretty interesting on a couple of different fronts, right? But like, just to walk through the timeline. So this happened, Spencer denied it. And in the days between that, the debate on social media was insane, right? Insane.
It's pretty rough. I did see some of the comments.
Insane, right? Now we'll go through the two major narratives, right? So it got insane to the point where Spencer had to block all of his Facebook comments from commenting because people were going after his family.
Yeah,
right.
That's yeah.
So look, this guy denies it. He said, well, when I say he denies it, he says it's all fun and games. So it's not like he denied it, but he didn't say that.
It wasn't my intent. And
and then he comes and then he pleads guilty, meaning that he did not wait until the footage, because apparently it was very hard to find verbal footage on it. He's come out because I think the kickback on social media is so bad. One thing to come at a person, which is still going to suck, by the way.
Yeah.
But start coming at the family, it's hard, right? If he has kids,
threats,
a wife, that's what's going to happen.
It's really real.
So that's how bad this got, and this was probably what prompted him to proactively do it. So the other major thing is...
And you actually would generally hope, I guess, integrity of oneself will prevail, right?
Well, yeah, you'd hope, right? The other thing about this is Spencer, feels so bad about this. He said it wasn't his intention. I don't know what else your intention is, but we can actually go down that because I have an opinion on it. But he wanted to meet up with Ezra face to face to apologize in person, and Ezra's like, I don't want that. So
wait, question.
Yeah.
Did he publicly say that before attempting to do it, or?
No. Yeah. He's reached out.
But did he there's a sequence to this, right? It's ideally what should happen is
whichever sequence. You're right. I get what you're saying. But whichever sequence you do it, be it for optics or that. So that's one thing.
Yeah,
that's him. The fact that Ezra said nah on Ezra's bit, it means that he's not happy with it, and it genuinely shook him, right? So this is interesting.
Also needing time to
you
process
need time.
that,
You need time, right?
Like,
all this means
if
is
we're
that
treating this as a normal thing, where
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's a couple of things. So one is Ezra is of Aboriginal descent, and Spencer is of Samoan descent. So they're both individuals of color, right? And this is quite an important
POC
distinction,
violence,
right? This is
violence.
when you say black on black crime, when you laugh about it,
It's
this is color on color crime, right?
Yes.
And the reason I say this is because if this was a white person saying this to
it
Aboriginal,
would be
they'd be
the
smacked,
vitriol
right?
is
right?
immense.
And not that Spencer is not getting smacked, because he clearly has, right?
Yeah.
Like on social media and everything. But I find this interesting. I don't know what word to use it, that a person of color would say that. And just to put it out there, he said monkey, right? Okay, so it's derogatory. He's clearly not. By the way, I got called monkey boy too, and it wasn't that like I was agile. Like, it was derogatory, right? Like,
Wasn't that I was agile? Sorry.
no, but what I mean is, you're not calling monkey because you're like an amazingly agile player or something.
Or nimble, yeah.
It's putting down. But there's
Yes.
a couple of things here. One is, and this is an actual chat, like debate raging. So Anthony Mundina's come out here, right? Hear his point of view. His point
He
of
surely would have been subjected to some of that too.
Of course he would have been. Yeah, he's said that in past. Like,
Yeah.
his story is not even more, sorry, is all about racism, right?
Yeah.
And like, in how he's had to stick it up to the man to get where he got, right?
Yeah.
So you would think that Anthony Mundine would be an advocate for Ezra, right? But he basically said, listen, I'm paraphrasing here, so go to the video, but effectively the condensed version is, mate, toughen up, son, because a lot of Aboriginals have done that. But okay, maybe you can accept that. Hold up. But the other element that he said, which was just a bit interesting, like, just I can't quite think, is like, it's a brown guy saying that to you, so it's not racist. Then I'm like, whoa.
This is acceptable. It's acceptable
So
to a
it's not
degree
that
because it's like it's that classic thing of like I always joke about this with the ex-colleague of mine where we would say something that is I guess more attuned to specific cultures, and then because there is somewhat of an understanding between us, be it like from a friendship level and an ethnicity level, that's okay.
Yeah.
But if you're outside of it, then it's like, best believe you can't do that.
but
It's very
makes no sense.
It's
I'm sorry,
very strange.
I'm saying that, look,
And noting that my example is with a close friend, that's the key
he's
difference.
Samoan,
Yeah,
and he's Aboriginal, right?
yeah.
Okay, so Latrell Mitchell, a very proud Aboriginal
Yeah.
and very famous rugby league player, saw that, and he was very pro Ezra, like supporting.
Yeah.
He's like, make sure you come down on this guy, give him a hefty suspension, whatever, and the suspension or whatever the punishment hasn't been decided.
Yeah.
He's like, this is what they teach. This is the bullshit that they teach our people to accept this.
Yeah.
And racism is racism, no matter what
Right.
level
Yeah.
level you say it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
perfectly well said. This is
Yeah.
what they teach, just to take it on the chin and stuff like that, right?
The difference of perspective is fascinating.
And also, he was
right?
saying, no, you're right. Also, he was saying that our people need to support our people, and just because you've received that in the past doesn't
That's
mean
it.
you should take it on the
That's
chin
it.
again.
That's it.
That's the sort of
the
behavior
perpetual cycle
that
where
allows
that
it,
continues
right?
to happen, where it's this generation is now trying to break through that. They've seen that before. They don't want a part of it,
Yeah.
right? And it is that overall argument where it's like, this is now just regular punters that are chiming in. Like, I saw comments based on the articles, and it is surprising to me that so many of them saying, that guy's soft, which
Okay,
is just
and I'll tell you why. And this is where it doesn't make sense, but like, the justification is rugby league is a tough man sport where they're trying to break your neck
it's
off.
the toxic
I'm like,
masculinity of it.
I'm
Like, what are we doing? Like,
It's 2024,
Yeah.
guys. Come on.
The other thing that I'm trying to like rationalize, and this is a very Australian thing, sledging, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sledging is it's a sport thing, right? But Australia,
it's a sport thing, but we pride ourselves
exactly.
on it for some
No,
reason.
you're right. Australia, especially in cricket, I remember when they would like be so. And I remember people of color that were playing and saying the sledges that they used to receive. So if you, what do you call, grandidize, like, what's the word, man? Like, if you accept sledging, or you say, look, he's a great sledger and stuff like that,
You're
perpetuating that it's okay,
it,
right?
and you're rewarding that behavior.
So then my thing is, at what point does sledging become
personal.
and then this is the nuance now, racist.
Racist.
So if he said, I can't say. I don't want to get.
Don't add.
Like, okay, he called him a monkey, right? Again, like, I don't know what the, I don't know what the term is, but like when you sledge, what do you usually say? Like, you're a choker. I don't know. You talk usually it's at the ability or something like that, right? We see sledging,
or it gets personal for
well,
some
we
reason.
see sledging at the UFC go
Yeah.
at astronomical levels, but that's a little bit of the show, right? But in rugby league, it's not exactly something that we hear of, right? So I thought that was fascinating. The other thing I think that
Oh, there's probably when punch-ons start happening, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
like somebody said something, or it's usually after somebody's taken out someone's teammate and then they come for you,
Yeah.
that type of thing. And
So can I say though, like, this is gonna be tricky, but like, if I call an island, and I'm an islander by the way, so I'm from Fijian descent, so if I call you a coconut, no, generally that's what they call you. Is that racist? And like, so okay, hold.
who are you saying it to?
So
That's
I
the
know
thing,
this line of
right?
questioning. Hold up. If I'm an islander and I call another islander coconut, is it racist? If I'm an Aboriginal and I call an islander coconut, is it racist? If I'm a white guy and I call an islander coconut, is it racist? You see where I'm
Yeah.
getting
Yes.
here? It's very blendy. And now let's make it even more like a thing. Australia's darling Sam Kerr in the news in the same week. And this apparently happened a year ago.
Yes.
She was at
Yes.
the back of a taxi. It doesn't say it, but I think she's had a couple of drinks. If she'd vomited in it, she
Yes.
called a police officer a white bastard, right?
Stupid white bastard.
Stupid white bastard. Is bastard a racist term? I'm really confused. But it's been pulled as racist.
But it's just based on the
Because her
involvement of the color.
charge is a racism charge. So this is where we're at the point.
Well, you know what it is. Well,
she said white, right? So it is
white.
racist,
Yeah,
right?
that's white. That's the.
She
That's
said you balmy old codger. Oh, like, it's not racist. That's what how English.
That sounds, yeah,
That's an
that's
interesting-
how the English
something
can talk sometimes.
You know you said that to me, Ed. You know you said that to me. No. I know that's a term of phrase. But what I'm saying is it's the white element, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so clearly that is racist, right?
yeah.
It's very blurry. It's really blurry.
Everyone, just be careful of what you're saying. If you got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all, and just think like, was I raised to say these things? Or is this coming from a sense of, where is this coming from, this sense of anger? Questioning yourself before you actually put it out in the ether, right? Like,
The thing is, in a sport like that where they're niggling, maybe Ezra kicked him on the head. I don't know. Like, there is a bit of thing. It is hard. I often wonder in that circumstance if Ezra hadn't cried or had such a really bad reaction to it, if he had, quote, I'm not saying it's right, taken it on the chin, would it have been such a big deal? Because the reason I say that is, obviously, our society is at a level where we're valuing this more, which is good, by the way. It's a really good thing, right? This is like, these are role models. People look up to these people. They do,
it's
right?
If you have the platform to raise these issues into light,
Yeah.
which would benefit.
You should do it. You should do it.
it.
Also, the NRL is has such bad image with all this stuff.
Oh,
So
yeah.
The reason I say this, though, is because if this happened at a workplace, would it be such a big deal? You know what I mean? And I think it gets pretty gray.
It depends on a myriad of factors.
Yeah.
But I would hope that the company in question would take it would take it seriously, investigate it as it should be, and take action accordingly. Right? It's I think irrespective of any environment in any type of workplace, in any school, any kind of where we're having to create a sense of harmony, celebrating diversity, and individualism, because it's supposed to mirror, I guess, like, all of these places do mirror a sense of what society should be. Hopefully it's all gearing towards the good, right, as opposed to perpetuating what we've seen time and time again.
Exactly. And just to end it off, we're in Australia, right? We're united under one flag. We have so many different...
Are we united under one flag?
Okay, whatever. The ideology is that it's all of... it is the totality of our population and each race and each creed and all that make up the country of Australia, which is really quite unique when you think of the density and the individual of people there. So as you said, we're trying to strive to better each other there, and how we speak and how we respect people. You're right. In the heat of battle, like, things can happen, but I would hope to think that we're big enough to think before we speak, especially because words do have actions, and especially now with social media and that, it's very easy to say something off the cuff and think that you have a right to say it, because you're not, you'd type things that you would never physically say to someone in front of you. So let's just, like, take a deep breath. If you don't need to say things, sometimes you actually don't need to say things. And if you have made a mistake, it is very hard, but try and correct it there and then. And I
own the responsibility of it, because you said it.
Yeah.
And strive, aim, take action to really learn from it and to avoid it happening again, right?
Preach.
Exactly. It's a lot of serious stuff, guys. Just basically, it doesn't cost much to just be nice.
Be nice, man.
Be nice.
Come on, man.
Have intent. Have good intent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't call me monkey boy, man. That's hurtful, man. That's really hurtful. But I was pretty agile, so that's pretty.
We've touched on a nerve. Okay. Alrighty.
They call me monkey boy, man.
I know.
And you call me monkey boy too.
But I love you, so because you're my monkey, you know. Anyway,
It's alrighty.
oh dear.
Okay. Yeah, we've been going down a road of some pretty serious topics. So pivoting to one in entertainment. Recently, this week, it's the end of an era for a big YouTube, big company of YouTube, Rooster Teeth, was shut down. So, well, I brought this in because for me, I personally grew up watching a lot of Rooster Teeth stuff, especially with Achievement Hunter. You kind of knew a bit about it because I would loop you in sometimes. So basically, Rooster Teeth was a company founded in 2003. They just predated YouTube and started working on particular animations such as Red versus Blue. And they ended up, by the time YouTube came in, they blew up and were able to go into all these directions of content creation and producing different things. So in 2011, they created what I followed was Achievement Hunter, which joined the craze of like video games, right?
Yeah.
On YouTube, watching Let's Plays. And also they went on to create more animation stuff along with Red versus Blue, Ruby, Camp. This particular series called Genlock, which Michael B. Jordan voiced on. And so they were able to reach out to, basically they pioneered this new digital age for almost 20 years with using YouTube and also their own website to be able to just expand and
create a community and
create anything, create fandom. Like
Yeah.
it's very much YouTube. In the YouTube age, Rooster Teeth was pretty much one of the
pioneers,
starting blocks, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's like you've probably heard of like the different adjacent production companies or that they've been able to create as well. So you've probably heard about them. So it was just on March 6th, it was announced by parent company Warner Brothers Discovery after unsuccessful attempts to sell the unprofitable fandom, gaming, and comedy entertainment division, they would be shutting it down. Jordan Levin, the new CEO who followed after Matt Hullum and Bernie Burns, he said, "We've read the headlines about industry-wide layoffs and closures, and you've heard me give my perspective and updates on the rapidly changing state of media and entertainment during each of our monthly all-hands meeting. Since inheriting ownership and control of Rooster Teeth from AT&T following its acquisition of Time Warner, Warner Brothers Discovery continued its investment in our company, content, and community. Now, however, it's with a heavy heart I announce that Rooster Teeth is shutting down due to challenges facing digital media resulting from fundamental shifts in consumer behavior and monetization across platforms, advertising, and patronage." So, honestly, from my perspective, I feel like Rooster Teeth has kind of started losing steam during the pandemic or even post-pandemic, which I feel a lot of entertainment, a
Started
lot
to
of
crumble, right?
a lot of particular facets of entertainment, corners of entertainment have crumbled and suffered through. But there's a bit of a timeline of things that sort of indicated that the writing was on the wall, that something was happening with Rooster Teeth. So I'll mention during the end of 2022. So firstly, in 2022, they were acquired by Warner Brothers Discovery, which I feel like might have been a fundamental move for them to be able to try and make some profit. We'll touch on stuff about Warner Brothers and their reputation in a little bit. But through that move, by the end of 2022 and through 2023, there were massive layoffs through different divisions. For me personally, like I saw a lot of certain members of channels or different divisions. They would be tweeting like, "Oh, our job just got dissolved. We've been forced to go off to do somewhere else, to go head off to another place," which is very tough and unfortunate. A big development happened in October of last year. Achievement Hunter actually got shut down.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Yeah,
they got shut down with the remaining members moving and pivoting off to other projects and like to their own little corners. But even then, some members had already left. But also, for example, Matt Bragg, he was one of the people that got affected by the layoffs in 2022. So it was a lot of, everyone was like, what the hell is happening? There's all this change after Warner Brothers took over. And then essentially the remaining members, they tried to create this new channel called Dog Bark, which is them trying to be Try Guys. I showed this to you a bit, where like they're trying to do skits and all that more comedy stuff and trying to move away from the video games era, which is true because
it's all like like this is me not knowing anything about the gaming zeitgeist. But it's all in Twitch, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's all moved to there.
It's all there. There's a whole like plethora of new talent that has amassed the audiences that probably Rooster Teeth had at one point in time, and it's that interesting space and time where, again, as I guess influencers and personalities, if you can only hold an audience for so long based on, you know, the tried and tested things that you've done, where old formats start to die out.
Oh yeah.
Chuck in a controversy there, you know, to kind of really alienate some of your fan base.
Yeah.
And then it all just fizzles out from there, right?
Especially it's true. There's only so much that the talent or the fandom has a loyalty to that they can carry.
Yeah.
Because I would admit there was, in the past couple of years, I was watching less and less of Achievement Hunter stuff unless there were specific people in it. I was like, okay, I'll tune in. But it, like, because the YouTube algorithm, that's its whole thing of like, it's constantly changing. It's making it harder for those sorts of formats to break through. And so that's why I guess it was that decision, as hard as it was, that Achievement Hunter eventually crumbled. And then, interestingly enough, last month, at the start of February, the X accounts of Rooster Teeth and adjacent properties became archived and no longer active. And
they're really shutting down all the IP and whatnot.
That was very suspicious. Everyone was like, what does this mean? I believe they were still functioning on Instagram and maybe Facebook, but the X accounts were just it literally says no longer active. Being an archive, so you could still scroll through
for the memes,
and especially for the Achievement Hunter channel, like they're still leaving it up, because if you still want to watch videos, you can still watch
passive
videos.
income.
Yeah, exactly. Just if you're feeling nostalgic and whatnot,
which that serves, you know, it's tale as old as time. You know, you think of Simpsons reruns or anything that, you know, you're like, oh, I wouldn't mind watching that again.
Yeah, or sitcoms, you know.
Is it something that you can watch again though?
Probably, like so.
Is it just people playing games?
It's like people playing games and stuff. And so if you really follow a certain personality, and you know, there's certain videos that become lore in the mind because it's just that was really really funny.
Or running gags.
And it's also probably taps into this whole idea of the parasocial relationship that people have with internet personalities where they feel like they're your friend. So therefore,
because that was how their style became so popular. It was that style of, it's like you were in the room playing the game with them.
Yeah.
And
because they rely so heavily on the creation of community, the like-mindedness, the, we are the same because we enjoy the same things. It's a sense of identity that people draw upon from them, right?
And especially like going more towards a lot of their live action stuff and their animation too. It's the fact that it's coming from a studio that's sort of independent in a sense, but they're actually almost more connected with the internet.
Well, they had the backing,
the increase,
right?
the increased connection to there, which taps into the parasocial thing. Because if you compare it to like just normal TV or film, there's kind of a bit of a different separation of the creators to the fans. But that's why with something like Rooster Teeth, they were like pretty much on the same line of connection to the fans.
That's how you get your subscription, right? That's how you get the funding. It's literally appealing to the senses of, if you love us, support us.
Exactly.
Speaking of, if you love us, support us.
Support us.
Yeah. Subscribe.
Just subscribe and like.
And like. Leave a comment as well on the videos. We'll get back on that call to action afterwards. Yeah. And so that's what has led to wanting to talk about Warner Brothers Discovery in itself, because it has
that kerfuffle.
It has gained a pretty bad reputation under the leadership of David Zaslav. I'm not even going to try to pronounce your name correctly because you seem like a pretty unlikable guy at the moment because of what you've been doing. I'm just saying. So
speak, I guess. Speak.
I'm just saying because so this kicked off with Chance, you agree. So this kicked off with he has been involved with the write-off of certain movies. So for example, the Batgirl movie, there's the Scooby-Doo animation movie, and of course the current one, the Coyote versus Acme movie.
Oh, that's what happened to it.
That's being written off.
Wow.
These movies are being written off and are apparently never going to be released, just to be written off as tax cutoffs.
That's hilarious, right? Because it's sorry, I just need to ponder back onto this idea of Warner Brothers kind of killing off their original IP, right, with Looney Tunes, naming one of them, but just then where it's, I guess, again, it comes to this weird thing of like, is it fit for purpose for the times of now, right? Is that if people would be interested in it? I did hear that the movie is actually amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Which one?
Was it Coyote versus Acme?
Yes. Looney Tunes live action. Will Forte's in it. John Cena
basically like
is in it.
Space Jam, but like different character, right?
Yes. And it's interesting because all the uproar that happens with these movies, it just gains more traction for the movies because everyone wanted to see the
release the stuff.
Everyone wanted to see the Batgirl movie, but that has been locked away, and it's said they will never show that ever. Like it's gonna be never. And in terms of, it's the same thing because Warner Brothers Discovery owns HBO Max, and then it changed to Max. And all this,
which is a terrible. That was a terrible idea. These
stupid titles for the platform. They've been suffering. They will have exclusive shows on their platforms, cancel them, and then just completely wipe them.
Yeah.
And that's adding to further discourse of how streaming shows are making it harder for people to be able to watch it further, like later on, because once they get it removed from the platform, it's almost hard to find them again unless you pirate it, which is what a lot of people are turning back to.
As the owner of that show, you're trying to find syndication deals. And, but like,
and physical media is
how do you cut through and get your content when it's so hard.
It's unfortunate. And then on top of that, it's Rooster Teeth is an example of this as well. Of now this behemoth of a company that, like, it has been, from all the comments that I've seen, part of people's childhoods, essentially, is now being cut down. And like I would.
But question,
Yes.
side question.
Yes.
I assume that their viewership has gone down.
Yes, especially,
Yeah.
which is what I was going to touch on. Despite the sentimentality that surrounds Rooster Teeth from a lot of fans, in the past years there have been a lot of allegations that have come out about toxic work environments, time crunches for the animation department. A lot of people who have come and gone from the company allude to certain, like they've had experiences there that made them want to, they ended up leaving. So both takes are valid. Both takes can coexist. That yes, it was it was valuable and sentimental to people who watched it, but also they had their problems.
It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times.
they had their issues. They had their controversies, and I've seen a lot of people celebrate the fact that Rooster Teeth is being taken down, and it's like, well, yeah, that's your reaction, but of course, the people who feel sad about it, they're allowed to feel sad about it if they want to.
It really speaks to this idea, I think, of the virtue signaling of things, where it's like, or you feel like you've outgrown something.
Yes.
It's a kind of a myriad of those two feelings, where it's just like you're rejecting that part of you.
Yes, or we've moved past this, this has aged differently. But yeah, it's just very interesting. But otherwise, it's shout out to fortunate condolences to the people who have lost their jobs. Essentially, it's very unfortunate for them. Hopefully, they're able to get back up and find a work elsewhere, continue their work in content creation. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, it's a farewell to Rooster Teeth.
Another one bites the dust.
Another one bites the dust. Well, I mean, I feel like I've been prepared once Achievement Hunter left, because that was the portion I was more connected to. Yeah. And so now it's like, oh, wow, okay, I guess that's done. Those were high school days, and they're gone too, just like those days as well. And so
it'd be tough out there.
It's tough out there. Warner Brothers, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Well, to be honest, like Warner Brothers are okay at the moment, right? With like Barbie and June.
Yes, but if this David guy, this David Zaslav,
this David guy,
check yourself, man. Check yourself.
Surprised you didn't do the dude.
Goodness gracious. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Before we're wrapping up, we're gonna do another section that we started from last week. Random rapid fire roundup. Let's go. Alrighty, so Kev's gonna lead this one this time.
Which one?
Alright. of some random topics that have come through, and we're rounding them up rapidly, or we'll try rapidly.
I want your reaction on Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson. Why are we doing this, guys? How old is Mike Tyson? So it's scheduled
50,
for...
He's 50-something, right?
How old is Jake?
Okay, hold on.
30?
This just doesn't need to happen.
27, I'm
Mike,
going to say.
Mike Tyson's 57.
And Jake is...
What's Jake Paul?
Jake Paul 31? Is 27.
27? He's not even 30s.
Guys,
why are we having this?
Guys, I'm sorry. Have you heard of something called the 27 Club?
What's the 27 Club?
What, when they pass away?
Yeah.
Amy Winehouse?
27.
Dude, stop.
Are you saying that you hope he kicks the bucket?
No,
we're not saying that, but...
Anyway, terrible. Anyway, scheduled on July 20th. Well,
he's kind of incited it himself
2024. Listen. Just calm down. Firstly, why are we having this fight? But the interesting thing is...
Why are we talking about this fight?
Because it's going to be Netflix. So not pay-per-view and anything. It's definitely a cash grab. I mean, I'm definitely going to be watching it.
Mate, Netflix the new, what is it? The
Sports Haven.
Showtime box. Like, you know when boxing.
Nah.
You know when.
Well,
they thing on, right?
Yeah, they had Alcaraz and Nadal in Las Vegas. Yeah.
I don't see it, but this is definitely going to get a lot of views. I don't know, man. This is not a fight we need to see.
I heard Mike.
It's going to be exhibition.
Wrecks him.
So just say this:
Same.
if Jake wins, you can't even take it as a win. If he loses, it's terrible.
But it will still benefit him anyway. Yeah,
it's a lose-lose for us that we have to be talking about.
Anyway, got my money on Jake. Next.
Oi, oi, oi.
All right. Ooh, that was a good one.
$20 on Jake.
Quick and through. All right, next.
Bitcoin at an all-time high for all you HODL fans out there. You went through the crypto winter. I don't know what temperature we're at the moment. As at now, Bitcoin is 68K. I think we're clamping down to 69 USD. A lot of different reasons for it, but I think there's a lot of enthusiasm in the crypto market, specifically because of these ETFs approved by the US Securities and Exchange Commission. And it's just led to a lot of consumer individual interest. But I think we're going to see some pretty interesting things. But for you individuals that, held your biddies, and there are other cryptocurrencies that are popping at the moment as well.
Held your bitties.
Held your biddies.
Hodled your bitties.
Hodl your biddies.
Or what was the Willy Wonka thing?
You're doing very well.
Sweet
It's
teeth.
sweet teats.
Okay, sweet teeth, held your biddies. That's it.
Hodl your bitties.
Hodl your biddies.
Oi, oi, oi.
Well, right, yeah, cash in on that and whatnot. And then finally, let's touch on the latest Australian trusted brands, especially the recent dethroning of Woolies.
Yes. So apparently, in the Consumer Index survey,
It is Roy Morgan, being the market research firm that
Roy
does
Morgan,
their
of course.
general data kind of survey every year. They do a survey every year.
You picked this, right?
Yeah. So
Okay, you know what? Go from
Okay.
three to
I'm
one.
gonna go from 10 just
man,
for.
let's-
I'm
let's
gonna
have
go
a
for 10
quick
because
shuffle.
it's good.
Yes.
So from 10 we got Australia Post,
Yeah.
which makes sense
Yeah,
in light of the
yeah,
stuff that's
yeah,
happened, and
yeah.
number 9 is Big W.
Yeah.
You love to see a
See, big
resurgence.
W, that's the big
8 is Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
Which is
okay,
interesting,
okay,
right?
okay, yeah.
Yeah, for mom.
7.
Yeah.
Sorry, just one thing.
Yeah.
This is like a consumer sentiment towards the brand, like how people feel about the brand.
How people feel? Yeah, how people feel
good
about the brand,
feeling.
and like how much do they trust
How-
them in light of?
It's not
you
how
know,
valuable the brand is.
not
right?
how valuable.
Okay,
It's
okay, alright, so
trusted.
good vibes. Good
Number 7 is the only automotive brand in a sea of consumer goods.
yeah.
Toyota. Oh, what a
Oh,
feeling!
what a feeling, man.
It
Those
works for
damn
you.
RAV4s. I can't buy one for 2 year damn wait.
6 is Apple.
In Australia, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
5 is Coles.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in light of the,
Down,
there's
guys,
the
prices are
Senate
down.
inquiries with the price gouging and
Prices
whatnot.
are not down.
4, a personal favorite, yours, mine, everybody's, is Kmart.
Pew, 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 pew.
Kmart beating
Kmart's
Big
coming
W.
in hot.
Take that, guys.
And then
Take
another one of yours, mine, and everyone's favorite, Aldi.
that. Yeah.
You.
Consumer value, baby.
2 is being Woolies, and
How
number
is
1.
Woolies over Coles though? I always thought people liked Coles more than Woolies.
I think Woolies is being
after-
the. I
especially
think
after the-
Woolies being the fresh food people.
Yeah.
What does that even
It's
mean?
more of a sentiment. Is more of a greater sentiment than down prices are
seriously,
down.
how is
and I know
Woolies-
that's I get that's the older that's the old
That's the old
that's the
catchphrase,
old
yeah.
slogans, but they stick for a reason.
Dude, how is
Yes.
Woolies over Coles? Especially with the CEO like chucking a hissy fit. Like the
You know.
Well, we grew
Well,
up in a
bloody
Woolies
Roy Morgan,
household.
man.
and
so
then
Who are they interviewing?
number 1,
that dethroned them.
dethroned it.
Yeah.
Bunnings Warehouse.
Dude,
Two words,
get
two
that
words.
Classic.
2 words. Sausage.
sausage. Yeah,
it.
that's a sausage sizzle.
Should we also go quickly on the least trusted brands very
but
quickly?
Don't do 10. Just.
Just a 5.
No, I'm going to do 10 because
Oh
it's
my god.
because it's interesting.
This is a quick.
Okay.
We were rapid on the other
Alright,
rapids,
go,
man.
go, go.
Okay.
Number 10
Hold
is
your biddies.
Nestle. Interesting.
What the hell? Everyone loves Kit Kats.
I'm trying to think of what's exactly happened, like other than palm oil, but that was ages
Haters
ago.
gotta hate, man.
Um,
we love Kit Kats.
Number 9 is X.
Nah, man.
Yeah.
Everyone hates Elon for no reason. Like
8 is TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah.
anti-bloody China.
7, Amazon.
You say that and you'll still buy on Amazon. Come on, man. I hate this. What are
Number 6, Medibank.
oh, they walked into that
We
one.
had a whole
Yeah.
topic about we.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Unless you're working there because they have a 4-day work week.
It gets more interesting as you go up. So
Yeah.
number 5, News Corp.
Yep, I can see it. Yep.
Number 4, Telstra.
Yep.
Oof, yeah.
Number 3, Qantas.
Oh yeah.
Definitely
yeah.
Qantas.
Yeah.
Number
Unless you want to
2,
sponsor this show. Just putting it
number
out.
2, being a guest on this
The first
week's
segment,
episode
yeah.
is Meta.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
They've
num-
had-
and
they've had
num-
a hard.
And
hard
number
couple years.
1,
Wait, let me guess. It's a technology company, right?
Yes. Who's really stuffed it up in the last
Tesla.
year? Oh, you're giving Elon too much credit
I was
here.
giving look.
Yeah.
Who stuffed it up? It's a healthcare company, is it?
Nope. You just said tech.
Yeah, well, take it healthcare. Who stuffed it up?
Think.
I'm assuming we talked about this.
Think about cybersecurity. Think about data.
Optus,
there we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gladys.
When the lines were down. That whole.
I just think that there's some industries that you're never gonna like anyway, man. Like, you know what I mean? You're always gonna have problems with.
Yeah,
like,
it seems to do with insurance,
and you're always gonna
reliability of services,
you're always gonna love Aldi.
social media. The Nestle one is throwing me off though. What happened? Like I'm trying to figure out what happened with
I
Nestle.
want to know who is the predominant age group that they do this in, because I'm
True,
still
true.
boggled.
Oh, it would be.
I'm still boggled how Woolies is like with everything that's happened. Anyway, whatever. Done.
Okay.
We'll see how it tracks next year, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
If you don't, Brandon,
Well,
next later on.
That was this week, guys. It's pretty packed this week. All right,
Pretty
as
serious,
always,
actually, when
Very
you think
serious.
about
very
it.
serious.
Well, hold your biddies.
Alright.
Hold it, guys. 100K.
Huddle,
As-
huddle your
Hold your
biddies.
biddies. If you don't need to sell it, don't sell it.
As always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this video with your friends and family. Listen to our Spotify. You can listen to the episode while you're on the move. Otherwise, check out some of our vlogs as well. We're gonna expanding into vlogs,
That's it.
But otherwise, have a good week, guys.
Pew pew.
Oh!
Done.